My name is Sioned Williams and I'm a Plaid Cymru member of the Senedd for South Wales West. Well, I've been a member of a political party since I was a student, but I wasn't very active. And really, I got a lot more active in my community to begin with. Became chair of my nursery group, became chair of, became a governor, school governor, chair of governors. And then the first kind of step I took into an elected position was on my community council. I was actually co-opted onto that council, which is a nice way to get into representative politics. Became chair, stood for county council, didn't win, and then went for my party selection for the Senedd. Did get that selection and then was elected in 2021. I think I decided to stand for the Senedd because I felt very passionately about a lot of things that I felt were not working for people in the area where I live and which I now represent. So I'm very passionate about equality. I speak on equalities for Plaid Cymru, and I could see that there was both socioeconomic inequality and also equality linked with gender happening, and I'd lived that apart in my own life, I suppose. I first, after children, got back into the labour market through job sharing, but that was very novel at the time. There was no question then in the pre-COVID days of working from home. And I found childcare a real struggle. In fact, I had to take time off work because I couldn't afford the childcare. When my husband and I had to decide who was going to remain in employment, his job was a little bit more flexible than mine. So that's the decision we took. But it was really, not a great decision in a way. Not everyone should be forced to have to take that decision. And also, I had the experience of having to give up a job that I loved very much when my father became ill with Alzheimer's disease. So I saw again the position of unpaid carers and the pressure that puts on women specifically, unfortunately, still in our society. So all those things really motivated me to come into elected politics and to speak about those things and bring my experience to the table. I think my biggest challenge was imposter syndrome. It still remains my biggest challenge. Although I've had lots of experiences, especially before I was elected in my community, being on committees, leading some committees, lobbying councillors, getting involved in the democratic process, to actually be the person then who's in that position, who may be able to talk about it on the media or, in debates in the Senedd, just feeling that I would be found out, that I wouldn't be good enough, that I wouldn't have all the information to my fingertips. So I think that was the thing that really scared me the most really about taking this step. The way I overcome that fear is by being really prepared. So you can read, you can consult with people who do know an awful lot about the things that you want to talk about, and obviously bring your own experience to that table and not be afraid that that is really a valuable thing to do as well. Bring your life experience to the table, especially as a woman. We do have different life experiences to many men and even to some of the women. There is a sisterhood. And that is a cross-party sisterhood. You can ask for advice, you can ask for support, but for me it's always about being really prepared. People do that in all jobs, and this job is no different. I think the main support mechanism for me is relying on other female politicians who I've got to know who are friends, some of them who encouraged me to stand in the first place. So I was like, this is your fault, you're going to have to help me now. They have advice. They have got tips and tactics of how to deal with different stresses and strains or things you may come across. Rely on all your colleagues. The similar issues come up in politics, and you can always ask advice, and that's what I do. I ask colleagues and also ask trusted female friends. I think the thing that surprised me most is that people listen, that people take notice, which is a tremendous privilege and an honour sometimes, that, when I go to visit a group in the community, they'll have heard something that I have said either in the press or in the chamber here, and it's really meant something to them. They really made them feel supported, made them feel valued and heard and listened to. And I didn't think, actually, because, you know, you tend to think that not everybody is as obsessed as politics as some of us. But people do hear, and they will notice the difference that you make, and there's not a better feeling than that. I think my biggest frustration, of course, is because I'm in opposition at the moment. And so sometimes you want to see change. It doesn't happen quickly enough. And sometimes it's difficult to explain that to the people you're representing who also want to see change. And, you know, you can just say, well, you know, just don't have the power to do this. But I found a way of there are ways that you can get things done in opposition as well. Just as I was saying, you know, you can rattle the cage, you can make some noise around an issue, and that sometimes does help to change minds of those who've got their hands on the levers of power. My biggest highlight definitely has been helping make sure that during the cooperation agreement Plaid Cymru had with the Welsh Government, that we got through free school meals for children in primary schools. We want to go further, but, you know, it's a great start. It's something I feel very passionately about, is child poverty. In the area I represent, it's got some of the highest levels of child poverty in the UK. And I had read an awful lot about the effect internationally of free school meals and the importance of making sure that children are fed. So being a part of that work, lobbying for that, making speeches on that, talking about it in the media, until we got it done, I think has been the biggest highlight for me. I think the thing I would have liked to have known when I started on this journey was that it's okay to make the odd mistake. Obviously, it's difficult in politics. You make your mistakes in public sometimes, but everybody makes mistakes. Obviously, you don't want them to be too big or catastrophic, but just to not put so much pressure on myself all the time to be absolutely perfect in everything I do. Nobody can do that. I would say not any politician can be that. So just to make sure, I do measure myself by a high bar, but to relax a little bit sometimes around that, and not absolutely everything has to be absolutely perfect all of the time. You can't know absolutely everything. You can't always give the best performance always in an interview, you know, and then to know that, you know, you learn from it. Every time you do something, I always review everything I do, although sometimes it's painful, and then I learn and think, how could I have made that better? And it's okay to do that. It's absolutely self-evident why we need more women in the Senedd. We're sitting in a Senedd that doesn't have a creche. So when this place was built, nobody thought to say, do you know what, it'd be a good idea to have a creche. Or perhaps there were women who said that and they weren't listened to. So there are obviously certain things around the way we do politics that needs to change, and I think having women around the table would help that. But also, as I was saying, the perspectives that women bring on life, the life experiences that we have, the inequalities that we've faced. If we have all those perspectives around the table, when all kinds of policy are made, they're going to make better policy solutions that are going to meet the needs of more people in society. And so at the moment, we don't have enough women. I've been campaigning very hard to try and get some statutory quotas in place for the Senedd. Unfortunately, that's been ditched for the time being, but I will keep going on that, because I think the only way to make that initial change is to legislate for it. And then that's how we can bring about a change in culture that we all really need. I would say to anyone who thinks that they're not political at all, are you happy with the education that your child is getting? Are you happy with the education that you received? Are you happy with the healthcare your friends and family are getting? Are you happy about the way that culture and society are treating certain groups at the moment? Do you think everyone's getting a fair deal? What do you think about the way that the level of pay you're getting or your friends or family are getting? This is all politics. Every single thing that impacts on your life and the lives of the people you love is politics. And so this is what we need to discuss, this is what we need to hear about, and this is what, in the end, we need to change for the better. I would say to anyone who's standing for election in the next few years, go for it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Politics is quite a difficult profession, but so are many, many other professions. You can absolutely do this. There are support structures in place. There's training in place. There are ways of boosting your confidence if you're not feeling confident. But you are absolutely needed in politics. You are absolutely needed. Doesn't matter what kind of life you've had, what kind of background you're from, you are absolutely needed to make sure that the decisions that are made in places like this are the right ones for everybody in society.